Okay, so welcome to Channitcast Lite. This is a sort of smaller, almost spin-off or like branching out style of recording. Um, we had some issues. We did record a full episode too, and our editor lost the footage, so schedules are kind of weird to get them to work right now. So we're recording this as a sort of way to keep the channel active. So we have three people in here today. There's me, Tag. Mm-hmm. Guys.
Zetkrum, go.
Then there's also Alex.
Oh my god. Yes, yeah, I'm Alex here. Yeah, I'm recording. And we also have our lovely German friend Zetkrum.
Yeah, that's me.
Yay! Okay. So today's topic. I have one that's quite interesting, and I think it'll work with a sort of small group like this. But how do you feel about the direction of video game production, like like the style and the way that they're going into? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'll be the first one to start off. Personally, I think it's pretty shitty. Most companies like to go to they have this sort of structure, and it's really messed up. They have this structure where in order for them to gain more money out of you, they what they do is they try to activate this sort of chemical in your brain where if you open a good loot boxes, if you open good loot box, then you'll want more and more
Yeah,
and
it's
more.
dopamine. Dopamine. It's the same thing that casinos do. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the same thing as casinos do, which is gambling. And I do agree that it should be outlawed because in some states, gambling is illegal. I knew in Virginia, gambling was originally illegal, but they now made it legal. But in certain countries in Europe, they made it illegal because gambling is not legal over there, and it's also gambling for kids as well because kids can obviously get any sort of currency to buy these loot boxes. So the direction of how some games are usually structured into monetization is very cruel. They treat us like walking ATMs. It's just terrible. And they usually put content behind a paywall. I really hate that. All usually games should come with everything that was originally planned. Like for a good example, it could be the Call of Duty series. They have DLCs, they have maps. That should have been in the original game. It shouldn't have been locked behind a paywall. But since monetization's so big, it's just turned into this standard for companies because shareholders and people who invest in companies love these because it makes them money. So usually what video games are is it's just usually about money. They don't really care too much about the consumers too much. And it really shows because in Battlefront 2, people were going against it. People are going against EA because they're the ones mostly known to treat the consumers like actual ATMs, and it's just awful. It's just I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just terrible. But
Yeah.
you can go, Ted.
Yeah. So I 100% agree with you on like all of that. I think if anything, like game loot boxes and things like that are worse than actual gambling because not only do they target minors, right? And like how many stories in the news do you see of like, oh, this kid found his dad or mom's credit card and spent how much on like you know, and I mean in gambling, right? You're at least paying money for a chance to make that money back or even get more. And that's already pretty stupid because it's a waste of money. But with video game loot boxes, you're gambling for a digital item, right? Which is arguably like way worse. Um, and you guys can hear me, right?
Yeah, we can hear you. It's right.
Sorry. Yeah, it's running silent. Anyway, so And of course, EA is the prime example of this, just because of how many franchises they ruined with their. Like you look at Plants vs Zombies, how they ruined that with like Plants vs Zombies 2 being pay to win. You look at The Sims, they locked like all the content between like mini expansion passes where you have to pay not only like $20-$30 for the game, but like $5 for this pack, $10 for this, etc., etc. And I think one of the biggest things they kind of ruined was Destiny 2. Um, and it's obvious that it was all well, wait, no, sorry, that's Activision. Sorry, I was coming into the point that Activision is another example of that with what they're doing with Call of Duty. Like, um, I mean, yeah, obviously Call of Duty is the best example, but sorry, what they did to Destiny 2, you look at how much better Destiny 2 is now that Bungie is finally separated from them, and that kind of shows you just how much Activision was really tampering with the original, like what the developers wanted to do with it, you know? And and when Activision took Blizzard too, that merger, like World of Warcraft, like downhill as hell, like it's at the lowest player base it's ever had right now. And with Hearthstone, of course, I mean, that's probably the one that's most relevant to me because I've fallen for the loot box mechanic, but they turn it into card packs, which is, I mean, Zetkrum can tell you how stupid it is. I mean, okay, just look at this. All right, Zetkrum here, like he's a free to play, right? And he's strong. Like he's been free to play since what? Goblins versus Gnomes.
No, Old Gods.
Old Gods, yeah. And that came out in like 2016. And and the game is supposed to be free to play. It is free to play. But as a free to play player who's been playing for like 4 years now, right? Zetkrum is like honestly considering stopping Hearthstone just because it's so hard to actually make any meaningful progress in terms of your collection or what you can play with if you don't spend money. You would agree with me on that, right, Zetkrum?
Yeah, like you got double the collection I
I
have,
mean,
so it just
yeah,
doesn't make sense anymore for me.
yeah, and I feel bad because I mean, I've fallen for the loot box thing when it comes to Hearthstone. I'm not really proud of that. Um, but I really just do hate how video games are going from like in the earlier in like I don't know like maybe the 2000s to sort of 2010-ish is when video games were really being produced by the people that love to make them, and you could tell that you could tell how they had that love in them because you had
Yeah,
stuff like Fable coming out, like original Warcraft was like the biggest thing in the world. Um, you had like Plants vs Zombies, the original one. I still play that today on my phone, on my console, on my PC because it's just a fun game. And
the Wolf games they made, like all the Viber, Portal, Half-Life, TF,
yeah,
they all made it
yeah,
at that time zone.
yeah, and stuff like Portal 2, like the God of War games, like everything. It just feels like it's gone from that sort of passion to just this sort of passive, like, what can we do to make them pay money? Whether it's paid cosmetics or a battle pass where you have to pay money to buy it, and then you have to grind like hell to actually get anything that works, that makes the battle pass worth money, or it's loot boxes, or just charging stupid amounts of money for the game, and it just feels so formulaic. What's the word? Formulaic. I don't know. You
Just
get what
say
I'm saying?
formula, and also I'd love to add on that. A prime example of something really disgusting is a good example is I played Assassin's Creed Odyssey. I love the game. I love the story, but in Assassin's Creed Odyssey there is a certain section in the store called time savers. And now what time savers are is it lets you buy double XP, double resources, and you have to pay this with your actual real life money. And guess what? And Assassin's Creed Odyssey is not a multiplayer game; it's a single player game, which
Oh
is
God.
unfucking believable to me because
Isn't
it's
it already also a full price, like $60?
yes, it is a full price game with a bunch of DLCs, and it has a thing called time savers. You know what? There is an option in the game to buy resources. The actual resources you grind, like wood, stone, metals, you can buy that in the store, and it's under the section called time savers, and that's
That's no.
insane to me, and
I know.
that's it's just terrible.
yeah, it links perfectly because that's what I was trying to say is games feel like they just exist to kind of like you sit there and you play it and it's boring, and then they try to sell you the things like whether it's in Hearthstone, like I know I'm gonna use the example again, like Zetkrum he's been playing for 4 years and he has like, and I paid like a couple of $100 and I have like double the collection he has in two-ish years, like about three. I'm not trying to flex. I'm just saying it's dumb. Or you look at games like World of Warcraft. Yeah, I'm using that again. Or Destiny, where when you buy something, they give you a level boost. So when a prime way that you get people to pay for your game is by letting them skip the game, then it should be obvious that there's something fundamentally wrong with it.
I think one of the platforms that does the best at avoiding this is Nintendo. Like, if you look at Nintendo games, they
Oh, definitely.
try to at least give you DLCs and such content that actually provides something like Odyssey doesn't really have a DLC, but you don't have any in-app purchases or something like that. You just play the game, you pay for it, and then you have everything. Or
Yeah.
Pokemon, you get the full game, and maybe if you want to, you can also buy the DLC.
Yeah, I think Nintendo's a really good example, and I think the reason they've been able to stay like that is because of their. I hesitate to say like old-fashioned, but it is kind of true. Like their design, their model of making and putting out games is still the same from when they were putting games out for the Wii or the Wii U or the Game Boy. You know, it's consistent quality.
Well, I
They
wouldn't
don't.
listen. I would not cut. I would not cut them slack. If you have been anywhere near, I've been a Nintendo fan for the very longest. You know, I've played
Me too.
Nintendo since maybe like 5 years old. I had like an SNES. I had very old retro because at the time my cousins were very much into video games, so they had a lot of retro things, and it
Yeah.
was like in
Yeah.
2005, 2006, and
Okay.
I would not cut them any slack in this day and age because of how they handle their mobile games. If you didn't know, like Super Mario Run, you have to buy the levels. I would not.
No, I mean
You
I totally agree with you on that because I was a big fan of like Pokemon Go when it first came out or Fire Emblem Heroes,
yes,
and I'll definitely agree with you on the fact that their mobile monetization is really brutal, like if not more brutal than other companies.
yeah, it's very pretty. You could see like how Nintendo can be pretty scummy, but when they work into something, like into like
Yeah,
something like really good, something they really want to put out, something amazing, like Super Mario Odyssey was an amazing
Breath
game.
of the Wild.
Breath of the Wild, amazing game. Those aren't
Yeah,
games that have any sort of monetization to it. Those are games they really put in because they have passion into games. You could really tell from American companies to Japanese companies that make games. Like
yeah,
Sony and Nintendo don't really like to
yeah,
put monetization because they already have something to have put monetization. If you didn't know, Nintendo and Sony, they own casinos where they have pachinko machines, and they have
yeah,
their characters in these pachinko machines. So they
We
use
also
their
like
characters
Mario
in
Kart, yeah.
yeah, they use their characters in pachinko machines because those are gambling games, and they completely leave gambling out of games that are like for the Switch or for the PS4. But I wouldn't say entirely for Sony, unless if it's like a game directly made by Sony and the Japanese studios. They would not put anything gambling like in their games. Only American companies put any sort of monetization in their games. Like Activision or like Ubisoft or like Blizzard, they do all that. They're American companies,
yes,
but then again, they are owned by a Chinese company.
10 cents.
Tencent owns them, so they get some of that profit, and Tencent likes profit, and
Oh yeah,
and because if Tencent owns them, it goes to China, and China spends money on their games as well.
exactly. And
And
10 cent is
yes,
almost scary to look at how much of like the world they control. Like Tencent like owns how many technology companies that are big in the US. Tencent owns how many games like they own like they have big shares in Reddit.
That's
Yeah,
crazy. That's really crazy.
yeah.
And
Slash
and,
focus.
and another thing I'd like to add is their newest game, Valorant. Valorant literally had a weapon skin set that was like $300 or something. I think it
Oh
was
my god,
300 or 600. I don't remember what it was. And
that's stupid.
it is stupid. It's just a cosmetic, is what I don't understand. It has no tactical advantage. So why are
and
you paying $300 for a cosmetic skin
and
set?
a big thing that these American companies, I like, because when you were talking about Japanese versus I remembered like, okay, you look at like every game that a Japanese studio, well, most obviously there's exceptions, whatever, but like most games that a Japanese studio put out, even just anything non-American really, like whether it's an indie title or a big AAA, like Ghost of Tsushima, Death Strand. Well, I guess Death Stranding wasn't really Japanese, but like Red Dead, like I mean,
Death
you have all
Stranding
these
is
big
Japanese.
examples.
Actually, Death
Oh,
Stranding
it
is
is.
Japanese. Yeah, because it was made by
Okay.
Hideo Kojima.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. You look at Death Stranding, Ghost of Tsushima. You look at indie titles like Hollow Knight. Like these things have passion stuff. And the American formula is to find the one genre that sells and then just oversaturate. Like, okay, look at Overwatch, and then look at all the other games that came out that were just like Paladins, Lawbreakers. You know, all these like hero shooters, whatever. And technically, Team Fortress 2 is the first to do it. So that's not even original in itself. You look at Fortnite and the stupid amount of battle royales that came out after that, you know? And it's just, it feels like the American game companies, perhaps due to interference from Tencent, can't really find their own original content they want to do. It's sort of just milking that formula that makes them the most money.
Like they had it once with indie games. I loved indie
Yeah,
games because they took a genre and they just changed a bit of the formula. Like look at Binding of Isaac, look at Meat Boy. Those are
oh my god, yes.
those are iconic for the genre now. But they took the old genre and put something new in it, something like that gives a new flavor, that brings
Yeah,
new
like
in it.
how Plants, like, okay, because I know that I've been mentioning it a lot because it's one of my favorite examples of good. Plants vs Zombies successfully took the tower defense genre and turned it into something so much more, and that's the reason that EA is still trying to milk it to this day. Did you guys know that Plants vs Zombies 3 came out?
Huh?
I was not
Yeah,
aware, really.
on phones. Okay, Plants vs Zombies 2 was kind of original to the was kind of faithful to the original, but they paywalled the hell out of it. Stuff like basic plans like the Snow Pea, that's $2. Like it's they really monetize it heavily, right? Plants vs Zombies 3 is another one only on phones, mind you, and it's just a Clash Royale like copy, but with Plants vs Zombies character.
Really?
I'm not even joking. Google it right now. It's disgusting.
Wow, that's unbelievable.
And of course, EA, being EA, decided to try to dip into the first-person shooter market with like Battle for Neighborville and Plants vs Zombies Garden Warfare, and those again suffered the loot box, both the loot box and the cosmetics. Like it's just awful.
Well, of course, monetization is not the only problem in video games. Really, another thing that's a
Yeah,
really huge problem is the political things that happen in video games.
oh yeah,
For example,
The Last of Us 2.
The Last of Us Two. What did they really add to it? Well, they added quite a bit of things.
But were they good things? No.
Not really. There were things that really does not add to the story. Let's say
I remember something.
Ellie. Like, let me give you an example. Let's say Ellie being gay. Listen, I do not have a problem with Ellie being gay. She can be gay. That's not a
Yeah,
problem. But when it comes to certain things where they tell you, like, if you didn't know, Ellie's girlfriend or are actually into open relationships. So she is actually open with another guy, and she's open with Ellie. So they are actually like a love triangle, and it's really weird of why they would actually really add that,
see, that's an
and
example. Sorry, keep going, keep going.
yeah, and another thing I'd like to add is that they had a whole section in the game of how Jewish her girlfriend is. They'd make a lot of references to the Jewish culture in The Last of Us 2, and
It's like zombie apocalypse, like why does religion play into it?
Yeah, and
Not to mention, sorry, I'm just gonna make this tiny point. Not to mention, when I first saw the footage of her girlfriend, I just kind of thought like, why is her nose so big? Like, okay, obviously faces are different, but then it feels almost like a caricature, which I don't. You get what I mean?
Take
yeah,
a
yeah,
German now.
I understand. I
Yeah,
understand.
Take a
yeah.
German now.
And see, I wish that these companies could find a good balance of, like, if they want to do a political message, do it right. Like, you want to make Ellie lesbian. What if they made her girlfriend like a really cool key character to the story, made her even playable? Like, like there's so many things they could have done. The Last of Us 2 is fundamentally flawed because it goes against what they established in 1 for the sake of the political message. Like, I'm not against. I mean, okay, yes, there's a big controversy around the transgender character, right? I'm not against there being a transgender character, but when the things that revolve around that character conflict with everything in 1, I hate it. Like, okay, there's spoilers coming up. So the transgender character kills Joel, right? And he's like the protagonist of 1. He's Ellie, right? Abby? No,
Tag,
Abby is transgender.
tag.
Ellie, yeah,
Can I add something to that? You said
yeah,
it.
go
You said you did not have a problem with it. Well, I do. Let me tell you why I do. Why does it matter what gender you are if you're in a zombie fucking apocalypse? It should not
That's
matter.
what I'm
The only
saying.
thing that should matter is you surviving. You really shouldn't matter about what gender you are, what's your sexuality. What should be very important to you is keeping you and your loved ones safe around you,
See, I
and
have
which
I
is
have a
very
theory about
conflicting.
I have a theory about why they did that. Okay, because you look at like images and like cutscenes from it, right? And this transgender character is is they are kind of jacked, right? You know what I'm saying? Like they look like. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So
I've seen
I feel that doing like they look almost unnatural. You get they're just like this big thing, and I feel like that's them pushing against the political thing. They're like, hey, look at how strong and like whatever this transgender character is in the zombie. I
and
feel
maybe
that's what they were
I
trying
can
to
maybe
push.
understand it because maybe she's training because they're in a zombie apocalypse. Like
Yeah,
you
but my
your
point is,
more. So
and there's spoilers. Oh, sorry, I completely talked over you, Zetkrum. Sorry, say that again.
I maybe understand it because you just use your muscles more because there's a apocalypse out there. So I can
Yeah, I'm
understand.
sure that. Yeah, I'm sure that's a factor. But my point. All right, so spoilers for Last of Us 2. Yeah, yeah. So this transgender character kills Joel, like I was saying earlier. Ellie's father figure, like the key, right? And then when the time comes that Ellie could like almost take revenge, yeah, like she doesn't. She just backs off. And it's something about how revenge is bad, and that's dumb. Okay, Last of Us 1 Ellie wouldn't have hesitated. And it's just like this bastardization of the original material for the sake of the agenda is really what ruined it.
Another thing I'd like to bring up is that another thing, spoilers, is that the person Joel killed at the end was was Abby's father, and apparently he was super
Yeah,
important and that he wanted to find a cure because of Ellie, but. The thing is that she went for revenge on Ellie, but then again, the message that revenge is bad is against use Ellie, which is just like it doesn't really make too much sense. You know
yeah,
what? I could really say a lot about The Last of Us 2. The Last
yeah.
of Us 2
I could be right.
was a horrid game. I hate how people just completely miss the messages, the characters, the growth of the characters in the first game, and they just completely destroy that in the second game. If you didn't realize in the second game, usually the characters that were in the beginning really don't really show back into the story, which doesn't really make any sense. So like, why are they really there? The thing that has more importance to the story was just Abby's whole part. You play like almost 10 hours of Abby. We're not really here for Abby. We're really here for Joel and Ellie and how are they surviving? Because you went on a journey with them in the first game. The first game was
Exactly.
beautifully done, but they just completely destroyed it in the second game just to send a message about politics, which completely
Yeah.
destroyed the game.
And the way that Neil Druckmann handled the publicity and all the controversy really didn't help the game's case either.
No, I agree.
Or,
It
or,
didn't.
or as Neil Cuckman. Anyways, we have gone a little bit here, so we can try 25 minutes. Yeah, okay. I think we can just hit 30 and wrap it up. So, um, what do you guys? Oh, one small thing I want to hit. That's probably a good kind of thing to end on is. I also feel that the increase of importance in like the mobile markets and how they handle monetization did contribute a lot to this awful culture that we were talking about earlier. Uh, and you look at how Fortnite is on mobile too, and Apple's going after them or whatever. Like, and yeah. Go ahead. Oh, no, definitely. Okay. Yeah. Mm, yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. They don't even, and they don't even do these like they need all right. Tracers, gang, soldier. They don't even do these in the actual game. It's in the like comics and stuff. So it's not even that meaningful at all.
Yeah, I just muted myself. I did not get to. I did not get to
Okay.
say. But like I was saying, is that yes, Soldier 76 is gay and has absolutely no story to it, just for like what to appeal to like a certain type of people. Like
Like,
so
am I
what?
right?
It's like so what if Soldier 76 is
Yeah.
gay? It doesn't really
Yeah.
matter. He's just a fucking character in the game.
It's
You play with
puppet.
him and you shoot. Nothing really happens. There's no real reason to go out of your way to say, this character is gay or like this character is this, this character's sexuality. It just doesn't make any sense to me. There's no story. There's no campaign.
And
There,
speaking of, I know. And speaking of political correctness in Overwatch specifically, do you remember when they took out that one tracer pose because of you know what I'm talking about?
yes, they because of
Yeah.
her ass, and it just didn't
Yeah.
it didn't really make no sense to take it out
Like
because it was just like
exactly.
you just see her ass. Like, come on, like Overwatch is probably the game that everybody sexualizes.
Yeah,
Everybody.
and like if you look on, I mean, obviously we don't want to go into too like NSFW territory, but like you look at the amount of content in that category that there is compared to other games. Yeah, I would definitely agree with that.
Yeah, it's just like, and it's funny because they were going out of the way. Blizzard was going out of the way and try to take those down originally, but they completely stopped because they can't. People are gonna go more and more at it because you're trying to stop it. So there's absolutely no
Exactly.
point in trying to stop it. It's gonna happen regardless. You
And I
know?
think that yeah, and I think Blizzard isn't doing too well in terms of their publicity. Like you look at the absolute flop that was Diablo Immortal. You look at how badly World of Warcraft Battle for Azeroth was received, and then the Hong Kong controversy on top of that. Like it's a pretty hard fight for them.
And there is one more thing I like to talk about, which is Overwatch 2. Overwatch 2 should
Oh
not
my
exist.
god!
Overwatch 2 should
When
not be a thing.
when your game has okay, and they've literally said, "Oh, we want Overwatch 2 to have more of a focus on sort of single player, like campaign, like story." What's the point? Who wants that?
There's no point, really. Like, the game is a
And
multiplayer game. It's not a game really for single player. I get if you
yeah,
want to have an origin for them and stuff like that, but like, come on,
Yeah,
like,
it's
it's just,
right game. So
useless.
that's kind of something.
go ahead, Zekrom.
Yeah, you can like if you have single player, you can actually explain why they are gay, lesbian. Maybe they do it like RP style. Maybe it's a really role play, but certainly it won't be, and we all know it.
Yeah, but these are things that are usually recently added. Like, this was
Yeah,
single player was not a thing they wanted originally in Overwatch, or they didn't want them to really give them much of a story, except the story that they were heroes originally, and now
and
they're all
there's
coming
already
back
risk.
together.
I mean, besides the fact that it doesn't really look like okay, Overwatch 2, they only have like I believe one trailer and they're like, "Oh, we've revamped the looks of the Overwatch 1 characters." Cool, I don't care. I can already give them different looking skins and stuff that you charge loot boxes for. Not only that, but there's also the risk, and I don't know if Blizzard is stupid enough to mess this up or if they maybe have a little bit of brain, but what if Overwatch 2 doesn't let you carry over anything from 1? Have they confirmed that?
Um, I'm not sure, but without a doubt, I'd say they probably wouldn't even do that. They want more money out of you. It's come on, it's
Probably.
Blizzard.
Yeah, and it'll be another $60 for 2. Like if I wanted a good first person shooter with a campaign and story, I would play like Titanfall 2.
Do you guys remember the Warcraft remake? Was it no? Was it Warcraft? A World of Warcraft like two remake they made or a
The
remaster?
Warcraft 3 remake, yeah, they
Yeah, they
ruined. I mean, yes,
actually.
Reforged.
I yes, Reforged. Oh my God, they messed. Like online is garbage. There's no more like world editor. You can't like make your own custom thing. Connection is buggy. Graphics are like worse in some places. It's yeah, it's truly a mess.
Every online game you actually made belongs to them.
Yeah, that's what they say. Like, oh, it's property of Bliss. It's stupid. They really lost, and I think that kind of comes again from that Bobby Kotick, the big merger with Activision. You can tell at that point is when Blizzard started to go downhill. Like, you just look at their releases and stuff; it's obvious. And my main worry, as we're trying to wrap this up a little bit and give our final thoughts, my main worry throughout all of this has kind of been that these big companies like Activision and then an EA and by extension Tencent, like, at what point is the market just going to become so bad that it stops being profitable and they go into damage control? Like, we need change. We honestly need it pretty soon as well.
Like
What do
they
you guys
can
think?
Well, the
do it. Like
biggest,
look at Fallout 6, 76, 67,
Yeah,
yeah.
whatever
exactly.
it was.
76.
Well,
Like they can't do it another time, or the fan base are going completely dark, like completely dead. They can't do it
Yeah,
with such a
yeah,
shit game
yeah.
another time. They have to
Well,
bring something from quality.
yeah,
yeah,
and well, the biggest hope I have right now, and it's obviously everybody should know, is Project Red. CD Project Red, with their new game
yeah,
Cyberpunk, which is gonna include. I think they did say it is gonna include monetization somewhat, but it's not too important, is what they said. They said they're gonna implement monetization, but they're very like they're gonna be very careful with monetization because they do not want to mess up anyone's experience with it. And that's
yeah,
something a company should be doing. I get that companies want to have some sort of monetization so they can keep creating more games, but you should be very careful with it and not to like mess up anyone's experience. Like for an example, and like with Doom Eternal, there's new DLC for the story.
yeah. The
Uh,
Ancient Gods. I was just
yeah,
writing about it.
shouldn't that have been in the original game? That shouldn't really have
Well,
been much
yeah,
like. And it,
yeah. They were selling the Doom Eternal like deluxe edition and like the season pass and whatever before they even told us it was gonna be like getting the DLCs or what it was gonna be like.
yeah,
So
it just didn't make too much
yeah,
sense to me. You know?
yeah. I mean, I do have high hopes for Cyberpunk as well. I mean, obviously, Witcher 3 is like one of the best like like up there with like Skyrim.
Yeah,
And I mean, it's been delayed several times already. Cyberpunk, that is, and
yeah.
people are kind of mad But I'm pretty glad, okay, because you got to remember, a delayed game is eventually good. A rushed game, like, I don't want Cyberpunk. I don't want Cyberpunk. Uh, was it 2076? Get it? Yeah.
Yeah, and you
So I
know,
want
and you know, CG Project Red has said there's not gonna be like anything really politics related. There is,
yeah,
but like you know what type of politics I'm talking about, if you
yeah.
understand.
I get what you mean. Yeah,
This is supposed to be a futuristic cyberpunk game, so there's obviously going to be expected dystopian topics and
yeah,
stuff like that,
absolutely.
and there is a certain type of of some sort of politicalness that I do not want to explain because it's not
Yeah,
really relevant to this,
yeah.
and it's really great that they're doing that.
And I hope Keanu Reeves shows up a lot.
Yeah, I hope too.
Yeah.
Reddit will be
This
all
was
over
actually
that.
Wholesome.
for
So
sure.
wholesome 100.
Wholesome Keanu Chungus.
Big Chungus,
Uh,
Big Chungus and Cyberpunk.
So I think that
I do
kind of
wonder if
I think that
if
kind of wraps up the episode now, and I hope you liked. Don't forget to like and subscribe and ring the bell. Also, type in the comments your favorite gamer moment you ever had, and thanks for watching.
and follow our Twitter.
And
Yeah,
follow our Twitter and
yeah,
join the Discord.
yeah. Type in the comments, Big Chungus. All right, everybody.
Yes.
Yes,
We do
goodbye.
not we
Have a
do
great
not know
Gamer moment.
when the next
have
channel is. All right.
yeah. So please don't bother us about it. But just keep in mind we're doing our best.
You
Okay.
won't bother us.
Hey,
Okay.
goodbye.
Bye, retard.
Bye.